Hey there, and thanks for joining us for The Weekly Grind, a podcast where we work out the topics that shape and influence the culture, community, and church of today from a biblical perspective. I'm Ben, here with my pastor and good friend Chip. He's the lead pastor, and I'm the worship pastor at the Napoleon Church of the Nazarene. This is The Weekly Grind. All right, I want to play a little game with you this morning, today. This game is I say the name of something or someone.
Oh, no.
And you tell me how you feel.
We have not rehearsed this at all, so.
No.
Okay.
The Chicago Cubs.
Disdain. Hatred.
Wisconsin Badgers.
Same.
Iowa Hawkeyes.
Love.
St. Louis Cardinals.
Same.
You sure? Even right now?
They're hot, man.
Okay.
They've won like 11 out of 14.
All right.
In first place.
All right. Now you can refrain from these.
Okay.
Same exercise. For you guys, when I say Donald Trump, how does that make you feel? When I say Barack Obama, how does that make you feel? We can go on. Maybe you're a little older. George Bush, how does that make you feel? And Bill Clinton.
You can keep going for me. I'm actually 40
Yeah,
now.
that's kind of the expanse of my lifetime. I don't remember anyone before that.
My first memories are H.W. Bush. I don't remember Reagan as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea
For
is...
some of you could probably even say Eisenhower, right? But that would be cool if you're listening to a podcast.
Yeah, good on you.
Big props to you. Yeah. I'd love that.
Yeah. But the idea is, the point that we want to get, and the topic of this podcast is really integrity. Because I feel like, and this is part of our 2020 hot take, which again, it's clear eyes, clear vision, but also looking towards the 2020 presidential election and other elections that are happening. And the reality is so often these names, whether they're sports teams, that was a fun one, but also now in our political climate, these names of people generate so much emotion within us. And why is that? Why do we allow names of people to generate emotion? Because behind them stands maybe an ideology or a thought process or some other sort of bad feeling. Behaviors, right?
We don't like.
And so today we really want to talk about integrity.
So it's such an emotionally charged climate now. And when you get emotional, think about
You tweet.
when you get emotional, think about even your relationships. If you have a heated conversation with your wife, you get emotional. Sometimes you get irrational, right?
My wife would say bingo on me. Okay, you just need to take it. Have you had coffee today yet? That's what she asked.
Right? And we lose our minds.
Yeah.
Like we lose our minds on stuff. Mm-hmm. And in this environment, it is so emotional back and forth that it's easy to lose our bearings. And the one word, the kingdom word for today is integrity.
Right.
And just like I can be irrational about the Wisconsin Badgers. I mean, it's a nice university and they're a good football team, but I look at them in a totally skewed way. And then I would be tempted to say things and see things from a colored lens that is not right.
Because your heart's in it too.
Absolutely. And so this is something today that it's kind of funny because we're talking about an emotionally charged environment and maintaining integrity in the middle of this. And yet this is one thing that Ben and I both get pretty emotional about as we
We're
observe.
shooting from the hip today.
And we are shooting from the hip, a little fired up.
I usually come a little more prepared than this. We got nothing.
We just want to talk about this because this is one of our biggest stick in our crawl thing about this whole dialogue, conversation, and being a kingdom person in the middle of all this is the seeming lack of integrity that exists all over the place.
Yeah.
And it kind of is this way. I find somebody I identify with, or I like something about what they stand for.
Maybe only partially.
Right. And I jump on that and I follow that. I trumpet that. And then I am unwilling, that same person that I've got behind, so to speak, I'm unwilling to then acknowledge, recognize, call out their behaviors that are against the kingdom. Selective. The kingdom isn't that. It's full of integrity. And if the guy you're
It's
backing,
principled.
that's it. And I am so tired of seeing people who refuse to call things straight both ways. I mean, both ways. And it's a lack of integrity that damages the whole kingdom perspective as a Christian. Like, right is right. And there is nothing that's more important or more valuable than landing in the right behavior, the right thinking, the right attitude, the right actions. And if the guy that I've placed my money on or whatever, I don't do that, but if the guy I like some of their ideas and then they have really bad ideas and they violate kingdom principles, I as a kingdom person have to call that out. Yeah, and we refuse to do that anymore. Look at our political system. I mean, if you're a Republican, then Republicans are going to cover you everything that you do.
Well, here's a thought.
Democrats, it's the same way. Yeah. It's so partisan.
Right. So we have an issue on our southern border right now, and the reality of children that are let's use in cages, because that's what everybody says now, fail to acknowledge that President Obama was the one that built all of these holding facilities. Only blame one side. But then also, let's say, okay, we value, if you're a Republican, you value the sanctity of life probably. What about the life of this child then that's locked up in a cage right now? There's just so much inconsistency on both sides.
Absolutely.
That it's just really frustrating to watch.
We need to be people who are not partisan, who are committed to biblical thinking, and we're willing to say, I think this lines up with a biblical worldview here, but I think this is not. And I'm not going to support that part of who you are. And I'm going to call it out, and I stand for something bigger than either Republican or Democrat.
And rightly, we need to point out that we can't categorize people by simply everything, that if you voted for one candidate or the other, I can't prescribe, hey, you voted for this person, that means you are this.
Right.
Because that's totally...
Right. That's happening a lot.
Because that happens too. Again, both sides.
Absolutely. Where are the people... The people of God, the kingdom people, who bring some sanity into this whole mess and say, listen, we're about something bigger than whether your party wins or loses. We're about kingdom ethic and biblical perspective. And I'm going to call it out wherever it violates what Jesus was about. And I just see too many believers and all these Christian social activists who refuse to acknowledge, hey, this happened with this person, we need to call this out.
Yeah.
It's sickening to me. It makes me mad. And I would definitely think that people looking on who are undecided about faith and God, and they see the inconsistency. It's a complex world we live in. It's a complex political system. I get that. That's why we shouldn't ever put our eggs in a political party basket and think that that's going to be the answer. The answer is the grace of Jesus Christ.
And what fires you up more, the gospel or the news?
Yeah.
And what are the things that are maybe worth dying for, and what are the things that are worth just standing down on and giving grace to?
Yeah. And I think what's happened also is that in this partisan environment, like you said earlier, we just color everybody broadly. And then we don't, if we know they stand for something or support somebody, we just refuse to hear anything else they'll say.
Yeah.
And it's so damaging.
There's a legitimate belief that by some people that half of the country is racist because of who they voted for in the last election. Or that, it's just insane.
Which is ludicrous.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is
it's
just
ridiculous.
Beyond. That's exactly.
It doesn't
that's
even
a great
make sense. And so it's all emotionally charged, and then we go to Scripture and we find something, or we go somewhere else and find something to back up what we believe, and I think that's where we get into trouble, especially in the media today. Everybody wants to. We only follow stuff that we agree with, right?
Right.
We don't follow dissenting opinions. But what we do is we make our mind up already about who's guilty or innocent, and then we find proof to support that. And it's such a backed up way of thinking rather than let's see all the facts, let's understand the context of what's going on, and then let's make a determination of how we feel, what we believe, and the way we may vote by that. And using the same template for every person, no matter what their ideology is.
Yeah. Listen, I think this country is dying to have people who are marked by integrity first and foremost, not by a partisan.
If you want to be a radical and be an extremist, live with integrity.
Be a kingdom person.
Yeah, be a kingdom person, because really we don't see that very much.
Yeah, you're right. And it's sad to
chamber.
see so many of our brothers and sisters getting sucked in to the partisan flavor. I mean, I've got friends now who they won't watch Fox News, or they'll only watch CNN. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, like, I guess probably in the back of my mind, never mind what I think. But it's like, again, back to you're just feeding whatever you want to hear.
Right.
And am I willing to watch all news networks if I choose to spend a lot of time watching news, which is another subject?
Mm-hmm.
Am I willing to hear and understand both sides? Am I thinking through how both sides land biblically? And am I willing to acknowledge that there might be a complexity to everything, and I cannot get partisan and just say, hey, this is who I'm behind. Whatever they do, I'm about. If they behave badly, if they violate Scripture, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to be silent on it. Then I'm not a kingdom person. That's not kingdom integrity.
Yeah.
So,
just some thoughts for today. It's kind of a little bit shorter.
Let's be people of integrity.
Be people of integrity.
Yeah.
Use the same ethical standards and moral standards on everybody. I don't think it's right to put one just because they have a R or a D behind their name, they have more grace. Just because they play for the Hawkeyes or they wear a different helmet doesn't mean you should extend more grace, Chip.
That's right.
But
if you even think about it, like with my kids. So if my oldest, Keegan, grows up and robs a bank, okay?
Yeah.
I can't turn a blind eye to that. As much as I love him, as much as he's my son, as much as there's a close relationship, that behavior needs to be called out, confronted, and the right things need to happen. Hopefully I'm that kind of a person of integrity that even with those closest to me and anybody speaking into my life is saying, hey, this behavior's not good. It's not biblical. That's integrity, right?
Yeah.
So I got it out. I feel a little better.
It's out. Hopefully next week we'll be a little more prepared. But for this week, really, that's just, if there's one word you walk away with, it's integrity. Calling it straight.
Yeah, and I think today we didn't even want to prepare because everybody has emotional parts of conversations, right? Things you get fired up about. And that's what this is today. We just wanted to shoot from the hip and kind of be that emotional part of a conversation that this is what fires us up. Needs to change. Mm-hmm. And it kind of makes us frustrated.
Starts with us.
Yep.
So, all right. See you next time.
Have a good day.